myself. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Grosseto Township Board of Trustees Business Meeting, June 8th, 2015. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we're getting used to some new equipment here. And I have to lean forward, so at this time, let's see, we'll consider additions or deletions to the agenda, and we do have a couple of requested additions. I'll ask Mr. Posiask to bring up the first.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for your consideration. The request is to allow Cliff St. Pierre and the Lewises to make a presentation on the Manchester Road fit strip, which we have been working on.
Support.
A motion by Trustee Posiask, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any discussion among the board on this addition? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the addition of a presentation will be the first presentation tonight. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Okay, the second will be my request to add action item number 8, a resolution to allow the township manager to sign a quit claim, is that the right term, quit claim affidavit? Okay. Yeah, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Discussion among the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving action item 8, the property transfer support, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That will be added. Any other additions, deletions to the agenda tonight? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda stands amended. With that, we'll move into presentations, and Mr. St. Pierre and Associates.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. What we're discussing tonight is a proposal to completely rehabilitate and extend the Manchester walking trail, which is located just on the east side of Meridian. In way of a background, the current trail in the Manchester open space area is a dead-end trail. It's approximately 1,000 yards long from the entrance. There are many low spots, and much of the trail is overgrown. This trail will provide a much-needed trail for residents if rehabbed, and I'd like to, at this time, introduce a young lad who was instrumental in getting us off, quite frankly, dead center, to get going on building a meaningful, well-used trail for this area. I'd like to introduce Mitch Lewis. Mitch?
Good afternoon. My name is Mitch Lewis. I recently talked to the Open Space Board about in addition to the Manchester Trail area. I believe that they have approved the idea of it, and now we walked through with a contractor, and we are hoping to go out for competitive bids. So the trail is located in Manchester Woods. The existing trail goes back about 1,000 yards. There are low spots. Part of the trail is overgrown. And we want to make the trail better, more user-friendly for people. So what we want to do is we want to extend off of the existing trail. As you can see on the monitor, on our diagram over here, the area marked in red is the existing trail. At the area where this trail is in X marks, that is where we branched off of the existing trail. We want to loop it around and put it more towards the entrance. We want to make this a trail for trail running, biking, hiking, whatever you want to do in that type of way in the trail. We staked out the trail with a contractor, and he estimated the cost between $1,500 and $1,800. $1,000. I'm sorry, $1,000. You want to talk about the finance?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mitch. As you can see, it takes young people sometimes to get us off dead center. And we're very excited about this opportunity to extend the trail. From the financial viewpoint, the trail is going to cost between $16,000 and $18,000. And that was a directional cost, knowing full well that in order for this trail to come to pass, that we have to do three things. First of all, we have to make you aware of the situation, talk to you about it, let you have some time to think about it, and if you think favorably about the program, the next step, of course, is to, because it's over $5,000, go out for competitive bids. And then the third step is, after the bids are reviewed, come back to you, and eventually you would award the contract. One of the items that may come up is the funding for this program. The funding will be coming from the Open Space Maintenance Fund, which at the beginning of this fiscal year in April stood at $300,000. The budget that we presented to you for the annual meeting for this year was about $51,000. The estimated cost for this trail is a little bit more than what we'd estimated in the budget, but there's going to be offsets that we will achieve in coming in with our projected cost of $51,000. Based on past year's performance, I predict we'll probably come in under that, even if we have to spend $15,000 to $18,000 for the trail. To make a long story short, folks, I believe it's to the benefit of the residents of Grosse Ile that we have two top-notch trails. One at the north end, which is the wildlife sanctuary, and if you've ever been through that area recently, you'll be amazed at what we've been able to do with that trail. This trail is going to be a lot longer, but hopefully, with hard work and dedication, we will make it just as nice as the wildlife sanctuary. So we hope that you will give this program or this project your favorable consideration, because it's going to help all the residents of Grosse Ile. And for that concludes our presentation, and if you have any questions or comments, we can answer them now.
Ms. Treasurer.
Looking at this project, on the north end of this trail, there's a couple of entries here that I can't read. One of them is Nature and Land Conservancy, and what is the other?
Oh, at the north end of the open space of this Manchester, there's what we call a private trust. That piece of property is privately owned by a group of residents in conjunction with the Grosse Ile Nature Land Conservancy. I think they own 2/6 of that area.
Okay.
That's a consortium of people.
And then going north of that is the houses along Manchester?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, as you can see, the map, the trail will not go into the private area at all. It's going to stay within the confines of the Manchester open space area.
Approximately how far from the residents?
I would say about at least, when you're looking at the trail, I think at least 600 feet.
Good, thanks.
That's good.
At least 600 feet. Any other questions? Yes, Wally.
Mr. Budney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Cliff, you mentioned you're going to pay for this by out of maintenance?
We have an open space maintenance fund.
Yes.
And it's right now, that fund was, I don't know whether you know or well the background, but it was assessed, we had I think a $250,000 or $500,000 assessment. And back in 2003, 2004, the then Township Board and the Open Space Committee consensed on not assessing the taxpayers anymore for that maintenance fund because there was enough to last for the next 15 to 20 years. At that time, there was about $600,000. There's $300,000 in that fund now, or at least at the end of April. So, and each year, we submit to the Township Board a yearly budget of a projection of what we plan to spend. And this year we plan to spend about $51,000, and there was some one-time cost.
Cliff, the problem I'm having is it's a maintenance fund and you're creating a new portion of the trail.
Well, no. When you look at the trail, that trail already exists.
Okay.
All right, so it's maintenance, primarily maintenance. Now we're extending the trail, but it's primarily rehabbing and reworking the trail that's currently there.
Want to interject?
Yeah. Because I'm looking at it and it looks like there's like almost half of it is new trail.
Jim, the picture as shown indicates an area of trail that exists already.
That's the pink part.
But no, the entire trail does exist.
Okay.
And what he's showing you is the developed part of the trail versus the part that has not been developed.
Okay, thank you.
So it is an extension of an improvement of an existing trail. If you look at page 8 in the book, it already shows that trail under the Manchester Woods trail. And so I believe that just presenting it, and I understand your, we're not doing something new, we're polishing up something that exists there.
Okay.
Okay?
Good enough.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I would say, just in general, I think it's a great idea. I'd like to see it come back from the Open Space Commission with maybe a resolution of support, asking us to release the funds, for example, to make it happen.
Well, that's why we're here tonight. Okay, that's what we're doing tonight.
Get the ball rolling.
I was kind of anxious. I wanted to get the whole thing done tonight, but we can't move that fast.
Trust me, you tried.
So I understand that was a three-step process to make you aware of it, to seek your favorable consideration, and then at the next meeting, as I said before, give us the approval to go out for quotes, and then the final meeting would be for you to review our recommendation for the awarding of the bid.
I've got a question for Mr. Lewis. That's the trail that currently has the berm. Isn't that the one with the berm now that along Meridian?
Yes, that
Okay,
is.
so you're going to remove the berm, because it doesn't look very inviting now. So you're going to remove the berm?
Yes, we're hoping to remove that because in order to get a vehicle that a contractor might use to clear out some parts of the.
Another design constraint I want you to consider. Our police department now has a what I call a gator. We have the ability. One of the concerns previously, Cliff, you remember, we can't get law enforcement in there. We can now. I just want to make sure this trail is wide enough to accommodate the equipment that the police department has. The big is we can get law enforcement in. If somebody's injured, we can get them back out. So I was glad to see that vehicle.
Yeah.
And now
We've covered that. I had a meeting with Chief Bosorelli last week, and he showed me, in fact, he took me out and he showed me the vehicle. And that's why what we're saying is that as far as our bid specs is concerned, the cleared area has to be a minimum of 5 feet wide to allow that vehicle easy egress.
Good.
So we've already thought of that one.
Very nice. Any other questions?
Just a comment. Would you, Mr. Lewis, tell us why you got involved in this in the first place?
I got involved with this because I think some people in my family, especially my mom, brought up the idea. She saw a type of fit strip like this, or at least that's what it's called, in Marquette, Michigan, and she used to go on it when we went up to see relatives that used to live there. And she thought this idea was a great idea, so I decided, since we have a project at school, we have the opportunity to do extracurricular type things at school during homeroom to work on these type of things. So I decided to work on this because I thought it would be a great addition to the community.
Oh,
that's ambition for a middle school kid. Huh?
Good. He knows how to talk into a microphone, too. That's all. He's not afraid of anything.
Finally, Cliff and I argued about one thing that had to happen. I don't like trails that end in dead ends. If you want to have a destination, and this destination allows people to park their vehicle and take a good 1.5 mile walk, and not have to walk back. You can go right through a loop and come the last couple 100 feet back to your car. And it's going to be a nice trail.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mrs. Gray, yes.
may I ask Mr. Lewis to provide his address, please?
My address is 7961 Coventry Avenue, Roseville, Michigan, of course.
Okay, you're on the record now. Any other questions for Mr. Lewis or Mr. St. Pierre? Thank you. Thank you. Nice presentation.
Just one quick question. From what I've been hearing, it looks like we're going to, you're looking at this from a favorable viewpoint. We'll be able to come back next month and ask and put an action item on the board to have you consider going out for competitive quotes.
Great. Bring it to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, that concludes presentation number 1. Now something. Hey, Mr. Kostick, is this your baby? Mr. Budney.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, you guys look different from here. Younger, friendlier.
Don't get friendlier.
First of all, on behalf of the Public Service Commission, I want to thank you for allowing us the time to make this presentation. Tonight, a number of us from the Commission will be presenting to you, and it will be our long-term road and water supply improvement plan. I will be doing the opening remarks. Mr. Nelson will give you the road projects that are involved in this. Mr. Schmidtke will give you the water supply improvements that are going into this. And Mr. Kostick, our chairman, will give you the funding and tax implications of this project. First thing I'd like to say is I wish I was up here, that all of us were up here merely presenting to you a water supply improvement project. But unfortunately, if we're going to fix our roads on Groseville, we are going to have to do it ourselves. We started looking at this project 2.5, 3 years ago. The Public Service Commission decided that if we were going to fix our roads, we needed a long-term plan, and so we started. We started talking. We drove the roads of Groseville to decide what needed to be fixed. We started talking to Wayne County, and we came up with a plan. We made a presentation to the board of that plan. We went back to Wayne County, talked some more. We revised that plan. We made another presentation to the board at a study session. We continued to talk to Wayne County. We revised the plan again. Those revisions are basically coming from the fact that we were told in no uncertain terms that we would not receive any federal or county money to fix our roads. So we can theoretically argue with the county that they're their roads and that they have to fix them, and we can sit and wait and watch them deteriorate, or we can do something about it. And that's what we're going to present to you tonight. It's important to note that in putting this plan together, we're going to address every primary and secondary collector road on our island. In other words, whether you're on the east side, the west side, the north side, or the south side of this island, if we get to do this project, everybody will see improvement to the roads that they travel. Not necessarily to their road, but to the roads that they travel. As I said, we've had a number of meetings with Wayne County. We've gone through a change of personnel at Wayne County, but the message has been clear from all of them that there is no help. In fact, we all know of Wayne County's financial woes, and believe me, Groseal's roads are not high on their priority list. The county will continue to fill potholes, and that's about it. And our roads are deteriorating where merely filling potholes is not the answer. The road plan you're going to be asked to consider is going to be a cost of $9,800,000. It's a lot of money. The water improvement plan has a cost of $9 million. It is essential in doing this project that the water be done right along with the road. We know, we've all seen it, where a road is redone and a month later they're breaking it up to fix a water main or fix something, and all of a sudden that brand new road is patched. We don't want that to happen. Much of our water system is very old. We see it every winter, especially with all the water main breaks. I believe most of a good portion of our water system is over 60 years old. It's old cast iron pipes. Those break very easily. We need to do something, and we need to do it before we put new roads down. So that's why this is a part of this project. Our idea is to give you the final revised plan tonight, have you think about it, come back to you no later than our July 1st meeting in July, and present a proposal, a motion, asking that we can put a proposal on the November 3rd ballot for a total amount of $18,800,000 bond issue to fix our roads and water system. And before I turn it over to Mr. Nelson to give you the road projects, I do want to say, and I'm sure my fellow commissioners will back me up on this, that if this is approved by the board, as soon as it's approved, we will be willing to meet and want to meet with every group or individual to present the plan and also to answer questions which we feel are very important, answering the question of why we have to do it. We want the people, the residents of this township, to be informed when they go to vote. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Nelson, who will give you the road projects.
Jim Nelson, 27902 Rhea, before I get called up for not introducing myself. So I'm trying to get used to the program after all these times. We have 7 roads that we currently want to obviously repair. The first of those is Church Road, Canal to East River Road. The second road is Meridian to Roseville Parkway to Horsemill. We're going to chip seal 12 miles of township asphalt roads. East River Road from Horsemill to Ferry. Ferry Road, Canal to East River Road. Meridian Road, Horsemill to Bridge Road. And these aren't in any order, but the last on the list is West River Road, Roseville Parkway to Horsemill. And I'm sure you've all driven around. It's pretty bad. So I'll say one more thing. I can't wait to get this project going. Thank you. I'm not sure I know. The yellow is the reconstruction. I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
There's Church Road. It's going to be rebuilt.
You got it, yeah.
As you all know, Church Road needs to be rebuilt. There's no other, somebody just took other mouse
Took it
control.
away
Yeah.
from you so I could get the
Okay.
legend up there.
Yeah, it's Church, and that's Church from the canal, not from Canal Road, but from the canal to East River. It's a total reconstruction of it, widening of it, something that's, I think a lot of us agree is long overdue.
Yep.
The green on the map is our roads that are going to be resurfaced, and the red or orange, however it comes out on your monitors and TV, are going to be chip sealed. Is that it, Jim? No.
Yep.
Okay, next, Les Schmicke. Yeah. Yes.
I know this is roads. Does any of this include the water lines that'll be replaced, or is that part of the?
That's a different
Okay,
map.
thank you.
It's not all of those roads.
But right on cue.
Yes, but since you asked.
Good evening, board members. I was an employee for this township for 43 years and worked in the water department. And in those 43 years, we replaced a lot of water main. But lately, we've kind of run out of money. We need to get things done that were proposed many years ago. We're in pretty good shape on the south end of the island. We've got West River from Roseville Parkway south. We got East River Road all the way up to Ferry. We have Bellevue, Macomb Street, Lake, Rucker, Ferry Road, Island Boulevard. All that has been replaced. But many years ago, the commission wanted to get the perimeter done. And we've had something on the drawing board for quite a while, and that's from Ferry Road to Horsemail and from Church Road to the sewer treatment plant. The rest of that has all been replaced. We need to replace that 6-inch water main, which was put in the late 30s. We need to put that into a 12-inch main because of the newer big homes. It'll give us a much better fire flow. Some of the streets we need to be done is Meridian, between Bridge Road and Paulina, replace that old rotten 6-inch. Park Lane between Bridge Road and Meridian, replace the 6-inch water main with 12-inch. East River, and this is the one I was talking about, East River between Horsemail and Ferry, West River between Roseville Parkway and Church, Bridge Road, that was all put in the 30s, and that's a rotten piece of pipe. That needs to be replaced from the pump house all the way to Park Lane. Church Road between West River and the Thoroughfare Canal. The rest of the stuff is pretty good, but then we got Church Road from Canterbury to East River Road. That's another rotten piece of pipe. Some of these places, the ground is holding the water main together. I know, I've seen it with my own eyes. The other road between Grow and Rucker, replace that 8-inch main in there. Hickory Island, Bayview, replace the 6-inch main there. That's incorrect, it's an 8-inch water main. Meridian Road between Lowry and Church, replace an 8-inch water main with 12-inch. I hope that we can get this together and get this done. I would like to see this project done before I go to the happy hunting ground. I know Eddie Phillips is up there looking down on us because he was one of the ones that started these projects and to get them done. Thank you. Les Schmicke, 9257 Grosse Hill Parkway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmicke.
Thanks, Les. And finally, the last part of our puzzle, and the most, one of the most important, of course, is funding and the tax implication. And we're going to have Bill Kostick come up and speak to that.
Good evening. Bill Kostick, Chair of the DPS Commission, 8968 Marquette. We figured that you're all tired of hearing from me about this subject, so we had a little group planned here to make the presentation tonight. But as you know, we've been studying this for many years, and I've been before you over the last couple of years a few times. We've been studying this at least 4 years. And we drive the roads once or twice a year. We've put our list together. We've met with the county. We've tried to be diligent about putting together the most efficient program available to get the best bang for our dollars. And part of that is what we hope to soon see on the island is a chip seal program. And just wanted to clarify, the chip seal program, we hope to do 12 to 15 miles of primary and secondary roads beyond the resurfacing and reconstruction twice during the 4-year period if the bond issue is approved. So this is what we're recommending we feel is important. Now, we know it's expensive. We know it's expensive, and our calculations, and if you were to refer to, when you reread this, look at page 6 of the report, it summarizes, and we've worked with the finance director and the township manager, with bond counsel, and this would, based on today's tax roll value, be slightly more, if it were approved by the voters, than 2.5 mils, be 2.55 mils. What would that mean for an average homeowner? Well, the average home on the island is about $250,000, and as the report says, at a taxable value of $125,000, that would mean to the average homeowner about $320 if it were approved. Now, we know that that's a big sum of money. My own opinion is we need the water main upgraded. As Les said, it's 67 years old. The fire chief has written our commission a couple of years ago, and I wish he were here, so maybe the police chief can substitute for him, but recommended that we finish the upgrading of the East River and West River just for fire flow and reliability on the island. We've been frustrated trying to deal with the county, and basically what the county says, based on their priorities, we just don't rank. Fortunately, we don't have the accidents, we don't have the volume. We're in competition with Canton Township and Plymouth Township and Northfield Township and Brownstown Township and on and on and on. So, this is our recommendation to you. We feel we should at least ask the voters to look at this. And my commitment to you, as Jim and the others have stated, we'll go speak to every group possible, making a statement now. If you do allow this on the ballot, we'll go talk to every group, neighborhood groups, every citizen, and try to share the information so that people are informed. So that's our recommendation, and we hope you'll give this your due consideration. It's my hope that you'll be able to consider this by your July 13th meeting. The absolute deadline, and we've checked with bond counsel on this, to put anything on the ballot must be to the county clerk's office by April 11th. The sooner the better as far as we're concerned. I'm sorry, August 11th. Thank you for that. Anyway, August 11th. And we'd like as much time as we can to publicize the information so that the voters are informed. We'll be careful to give our opinions. We know that as officials we can't ask for a yes vote, or you can't ask for a yes vote. What we can do is ask people to be informed and considerate. So that's our commitment to you if we'll go forward with this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kostick.
Les, come on.
Back in the early 70s, I don't think anybody in this room was here on the island when the roads were in such terrible condition. They went out for a millage to redo the roads. And a lot of the roads you see on Groves Hill right now are roads that were done in the early 70s with that millage that went out. The post office said they were going to refuse to deliver mail if we didn't do something about the roads. But it was put up to the voters passed it, and it got done. Macomb Street, if you look at Macomb Street, I was on the road committee back then. We set up an ad hoc committee, and we had money left over from the bond issue, and what we did is we took everything we had and we put it into Macomb Street. That's why you have Macomb Street like it is today. Thank you.
Thanks again, Les.
Thanks, Les. Phil, did you have anything you wanted to say? Yeah. We have one more commission member who would like to say something to you.
Paul Kennedy, 28860 Swan Island Drive, Grosse Ile.
I'd like to echo everything that the other commission members have said. And each meeting, I've been on the commission a little over 3 years, each meeting that we have had, this has been a topic of discussion. And I'm not quite a resident of Grosse. I've been here 25 years. I'm not sure what the timeline is to actually be considered a resident. I may never make it, but I've noticed that year by year by year, for the last 10 years or so, our roads have been deteriorating faster than we can keep up with them. We passed the millage for the road maintenance, but the use of that millage is not keeping us even. And the only solution is to do it right. In other words, we could go halfway with this project or try to scale it back, and I can just guarantee you we would not be pleased with the results. We would not have good roads, and in my opinion, I would even rather go further. But, and we would go further if we had some Wayne County support. But I just want to echo everything the other commission members have said, and then as a resident, just encourage our board to consider this and move forward with it with their full support. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, I'd just like to again thank the board for letting us make the presentation. We will have a proposal or a motion to present by the July 13th meeting. So, thank you.
Any questions? Any questions, comments from Mr. Budney before he?
I want to see.
Yeah, I've got a few, Mr. Supervisor.
Yeah.
So first of all, I appreciate you guys taking the time to investigate this, B, to study it, and more importantly, to start creating real proposals to get the problem fixed. Obviously, it's a very difficult task to undertake because it's so expensive. But a couple questions. One is if we're replacing some of the water mains as part of the project, do we have funding resources from the water rates to offset some of the bond issue, or is this going to be 100% on the
I'm going to let Bill come on the project on this.
Capital improvement from the water funds.
Bill, you want to take that?
Well, the answer is we made a recommendation that water rates and sewer rates people complain about, we know they're high enough. And we could propose this, but I think the last time we had I think it was a $3 million improvement program, it would have increased the water rates by 50 cents.
Yeah, it was almost like, I can't remember offhand, but it was almost like 15% just by
I think that's right. It would have just for $3 million. And that would have just done a section of East River and a section of Meridian. And it would not have completed anything on West River. So we thought that at least this would be, if it's approved, tax deductible. Now, if this doesn't go forward, we can always look to revenue bonds, which would be funded by water and sewer revenues. That's a good question. We can always do that. But if it's approved in the fashion we've recommended, then it is an item that's tax deductible for people, whereas water sewer rates are not.
Understood. So then by the same token, then are there capital funds available that have been built up from the existing rates that can offset this?
It's another good question, and we have no capital funds at this point. I mean, when I say no, we don't have $100,000 in the water fund for capital. We do not at this time. We've used it all for the projects we've undertaken, and we haven't done a water project, I don't think, for 3 years. Prior to that, we were doing $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and we just ran out of money because we didn't increase rates enough. And as you know, they've gone up every year.
Yeah, we haven't increased the same amount as our income costs have increased.
Based on people coming to the commission complaining about water sewer rates.
A couple more questions. So if we're going to do this extensive from a road standpoint, do we have the opportunity to do this for Grosse road standards, if you will, versus following Wayne County road standards? And the reason I ask is because if we're going to have this much construction and tear up this much of particularly East River and West River, do we have the ability to at the very least make a widened shoulder?
Well, our plan is for East River. Our plan is to carry that widened shoulder, as it's in part of it now, to carry it throughout. There's no room on West River. West River, we don't have easements, the road's not, we've studied it, It's not in the center line where, I mean, it was offset some way before our lifetimes, and we know that there'd be great resistance to relocating it. What we've proposed to, and Wally's very familiar with this, as is Ted, what we've proposed on West River is to mill it and resurface it in place, and then fix the drainage so that it does have proper drainage away from the east slope to the west side towards the Trenton Channel. But yes, the answer is yes. On East River, we hope to be able to accomplish the shoulder. The only road that's going to be reconstructed is Church. Now, originally we were going to do Ferry, we were going to do a couple others. There's a difference between reconstruction and resurfacing. All the others are going to be resurfaced. And just one, I don't want to bore you with this, but on a reconstruction, we have to go through the county permit office. The experience in our community and in most communities in this county is that you could look at a 20% increase in costs minimum if you go to the county permit office. They have manholes for stormwater that exceed $100,000 in cost versus 10. We tried to avoid that, so we're talking about resurfacing, which will last 20 years on this island. And the chip seal, we hope, will rehabilitate our roads so that we can get 10, 15 years out of them. But they'll all be improved from what they are today.
I see East River as a resurface. So is the water pipe replacement going to be a tunnel, or is it going to be a dig and lay it?
Les can correct me, but I think the water main is not under the road. It's offset west of the road. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it may be pipe burst. It's a new methodology where you go in and take the old water main, you burst it, and put a new main in. You actually push it in. There'll be some open cuts, but it will not be directly under the road. But certainly the road surface would be damaged during construction in the spots where you'd have to excavate. So it's not like we're going to tear the whole road up, but it'll be alongside the road, and in some spots it may get close to the edge of pavement.
And then in those spots, that's where you'd be able to do an extra wide shoulder when you lay the surface back down.
The extra wide shoulder, I think it's in the vicinity of the middle school today. We hope to put that throughout.
On East River.
On East River. And just so as a clarification, that's that 3 or 4 foot.
Yep, understood.
Safe pedestrian area. Right?
Yep, a couple more questions. Sorry, I got a whole bunch of them, but this is a huge project.
I just want to quickly add, and I don't think we mentioned it, that this project is a 4-year project. It's not going to be done in 1 or 2 years. So it will, take some time. The whole island won't be tore up at one time.
From a West River standpoint, I recognize that there are the road's not in the place it's supposed to be in, and probably on private property in more than one location. But I think that at the very least we can ask the residents if they would be willing to give up some easement for a widened shoulder.
Well, I will say this: that money is not in this program. We do not have the money. We had to bring down the cost for West River Road. Originally, we were forecasting it at $800,000 a mile. I think we're down to $600,000, based on the fact that the county, we had proposed almost $3 million of federal aid for Meridian and East River, which are 2 roads that qualify for it. And the county said we will never make the list for federal funding.
So how many miles do you have there? 2 miles, 3 miles?
We have 3 miles of West River, and all I can tell you, Mr.
So that's, to me, it's $600,000, and if we're going to spend the money to do it,
$600 per mile.
I thought the delta was $200 per mile.
The what?
The delta between the new. You guys had saved $200,000 a mile. It costs.
No, we cut.
It costs $800,000.
No, we reduced the cost for construction in order to get to the $9.8 million where we're at.
From $800,000 to $600,000
per mile.
So it's a $200,000 reduction per mile then.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So if you got 3 miles, you got a $600,000 add. My question is it worth, if we're doing the project, to see if there's easements available for that $600,000 to add the extra wide shoulder? And if you know the answer now, I'm just asking, is it worth that study?
Well, certainly it would be. In some areas, it's very tight. The history that I've been given in my tenure with the commission is that there's going to be a great deal of resistance, we've been told, for any easements from a lot of the owners, and there may be several. But one of the big issues there is we have a drainage problem, as you know. And
A couple of them.
so I would like to see what you're talking about achieved, but we had to make some sacrifices here in order to keep the program where it's at.
And yeah, not only, I mean, God knows we'd love to do the whole island, but we know we can't afford it. The residents cannot afford it, and that's the other consideration, is how much are we going to put, how much of a burden can we put on the residents? So this is what we came up with. Your idea is great, and we'd love to do it. West River is a completely different animal from any other road on the island, I think, because of the easement problem. And so we thought the best way to approach it is because something has to be done.
I understand. I just wanted, if we're going to do the project, let's put the little extra effort in, because I know when the bike path started, right, that was easements on people's properties as well, and that worked, right?
So, this is our plan, but if you want to increase it, we'd be open to talking with you about it.
Just asking if it's worth it, because to me, if it's an extra $600,000 and it flies, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's not. I don't know. We got to see what it gets us. I guess the final question, because I'm sure the rest of my colleagues want to ask some questions here as well. But so Church Road is a reconstruct on the east side. On the west side, or basically from Canal to Meridian, is that just going to be a mill and grind and replace?
Yes, because originally we had asked the county for, Church Road's not eligible for federal funding. Two issues on Church Road. First are the trees. We understand that in the past, the residents, particularly the area between Meridian and the canal, have been concerned about the loss of trees. That's value to their property. So to save the trees and to avoid having to conform to some huge expense with regard to the storm sewer, the ditch that's there, we've been advised by the county road division to avoid the permit office, just resurface that section. The remaining section we hope to widen from 18 to 22 feet. It may have a little meander to avoid some trees, but the ditches will be greatly improved, and we may have to enclose some areas. We've budgeted money for the storm drains with it. I don't know if that's answering your question, but it's a tricky project.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I know that the trees are a huge concern in that area, and that's probably why we haven't done something more serious sooner. But I guess the question I have is there any widening of that road? Because it's already a very narrow road. It's already a very dangerous road for travel standpoint.
The issue is if we widen it, we feel the trees are going to be in jeopardy because we're going to get into some of the roots. And that small section. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, and we considered that, and we just felt this was the way to go on it. It gets the part that's worse is from Canal, really down to Park Lane there, where the kids are and everything. So that's what we wanted to concentrate on. And
I just see the other section I see when there's a runner or a biker, the traffic in both directions pretty much has to stop because there's no room there, right?
No room.
And yeah.
They're all good.
Any more?
questions.
No,
Okay.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Mr. Treasurer.
Good. Try to figuring out how I can say this. I don't want to sound negative on any part of this because you know what kind of a supporter I am on this project. But based on the current letter, now we're going to go to Church Road specifically. Based on the current letter that we just got with regards to the ability to handle storm water at the plant, and the rejection of the process that we were hoping to go with, activates the alternate plan, or at least keeps that alive, in most of the storm water entry that comes into our system. A large portion of it is right off of that Church Road thoroughfare, those houses that are north and south of that. I just want you to think about this, because at some point in time, they're going to come up to us, the way I see it, unless we end up in court, the way I see it, they're going to come to us and say, you're going to have to handle the stormwater from those residents. It's going to require a whole system, and that's going to be the major influx of that system. You need to keep that in mind as we go forward. It's going to be huge. It's an issue that we have to address going forward, and that we have to address to the public, too, because what we're going to be looking at is another huge expense for infrastructure here on the island. We're going to ask them for $18 million, and I'm all in favor of that. I think everything that you guys have put together. But we need to keep focused on the fact that right on top of that could be another 9 or 10 or 15.
Well, that's nothing I anticipated. I understand what you're saying about Church Road area and about the storm drain water that gets into our sanitary system. We did not tackle that issue.
I know you haven't. These are issues that you want to talk to everybody on the island, and we're going to have to put this out to them. These are the kind of questions that are going to come at you. And there are also questions that we're going to be responsible for the result of that going down the road.
Well, before anybody watching gets misled on this, what the problem in the area of Church Road, HCL Jackson, and some of the other streets in that area.
Yeah, the Potawatomi subdivision.
We have a lot of footing drains and easements or ease troughs and things that allow stormwater to get into our sanitary system.
Correct.
It all ends up at our wastewater plant, and during a heavy, heavy storm, overloads the flows at our wastewater plant, requires the plant to overload itself, and what you're talking about is a program that would be very extensive and take years to achieve, getting that stormwater removed from footing drains and other parts, just stormwater, and put into the canal or one of the up to the Detroit River without going through the sanitary sewers. That's a whole complete issue, different than from what we're trying to deal with here to get our roads back to a safe condition. And I understand it's legitimate.
It's different, but it's the same. I understand, Bill.
It's a difficult issue.
It is. It's huge. And and I wouldn't have even brought it up because we still had some hope that they were going to allow us to use another process. But from what I'm gathering from the letter we received, that process is not going to be acceptable. So they're going to drive us in another direction. And so these are decisions we have to make relatively quickly because it's all going to happen. It's all going to come down on us pretty quick, I think.
I mean, we'll be meeting on that issue next week and seeing where we're going to go on it. But you're right. I mean, it's another thing that we're being driven in that direction by an outside source, the state, MDEQ, and we have to come to terms with that when we do.
And I just want to address one of Eric's questions about doing the infrastructure upgrades in the past several years. A lot of it was put on hold because of the sewer project. We had a $4.5 million process going, so we put a lot of that stuff on hold. And if you go back, and I think Ann can probably give us the numbers, we spent a huge amount of money out of our own coffers to facilitate that project. I mean, I'm guessing $5-6 million out of it actually came out of the sewer. I mean, the water and sewer rates that we had put aside at one time that we had to spend. So it's not like we've ignored it. It just priorities kind of overwhelmed us, and those decisions were made, and so consequently everything else has got put on hold for a number of years. So unfortunate, it's the way it is.
And some of you may recall on the water, just add that every 5 years we're required to do a reliability study, which is like a master plan, and you analyze your water pressures from different hydrants and so forth, and your water main breaks. The last one was done in 2010. We updated it in 2012 just for this purpose, so that we could zero in on where would we get our best bang for our buck in terms of enhancing water pressures throughout the community.
Bill, Jim?
Yeah, Tom.
What I asked for is an explanation at a different time. This is not the evening. But when you talk about footing drains, I live in that area. My house was built in the late 70s, much like Jim's. But those subdivisions were put in, mid-50s, 55, 6, 7, 56, 57, 58, the Potawatomi subdivisions. And I'm not sure a lot of people living in that area understand exactly what you're referring to. So what I'd ask is, at a future date, could you give us some sort of an explanation to make it clear just how those like footing drains? It's not the same thing as eavesdrop drains going into the storm. You're talking about footing drains, but I'd like an explanation what that really means to me or to any other homeowners, because if we're going to incur this cost, I'd like to know.
First of all, I think we're a little premature that what the cost is going to be and what the
just an explanation of how my house might be affecting this whole process.
That's not a problem. We can do that for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Posiast. Can I get 2 minutes? Mr. Posiast.
Thank you. When we did, Les Schmidtke and I were both on the roads committee when we did the West River Road south of the Free Bridge. Made a very nice project out of it. We got a lot of support financially for it through Wayne County. We had that same support to do West River Road north of the bridge. But the impediment there were the easements. Folks did not want to grant easements to put that road up to the same county spec that south of the Free Bridge. And by lane width and by curbs and things like that. So I guess I'm kind of answering Eric's question a little bit too, that there are things that we can do and there are things that we probably won't be able to do. And I know tomorrow night you have a meeting and you have invited the BPAC committee. BPAC is interested in the complete streets philosophy, and I would expect that you have to do some to what can be done, what can't be done, and in satisfying that philosophy that some places we can accommodate more than just cars, and some places we might not be able to. So I'll be there tomorrow night, and I know Brian will be there tomorrow night, and I'd encourage our public to be there tomorrow night to talk about it too. And I think you guys, by the way, just did one swell presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'd just like to add, I'm glad you mentioned that. We've been talking to Brian Pollock for a couple of months now, and tomorrow night at our meeting, we're going to do the same presentation and have a discussion with the BPAC committee. And I would encourage all of you to attend. And also, I'd be open, if you wanted to have a study session with us to talk about enhancing the program to some of these, to address some of these other concerns, we'd be open to that too. I guess the whole question is what's the right thing to ask at this time, and this was our best shot at it.
Ms. Smith.
Yeah, thank you for doing the presentation. I think it was very informative. Just in driving around and biking around and walking around, I don't know if our roads can survive another winter. The last two have been incredibly brutal and tough on these roads, and it's affecting our real estate values. I had some guests come on the island recently who had never been here, and they're like, wow, your roads are terrible, and it's kind of embarrassing. Here we are, this beautiful community, and you look at the safety aspect, and I'm all for paying the $320 a year, but I'm not sure that everybody else is going to feel that way. And that comes in light of a number of other things now that we've kind of revealed that we've got some other issues going on that could be a bigger bill down the road. But when we put this on for a vote of the citizens, and just hear me out for this because I'm going to digress into another direction. There's a lot of chatter out there in regards to the splash park, and even though this is different money, I understand that. Some people don't understand that. It's different money. But they vote with their conscience in what's going on. And if they feel that we're spending their money irresponsibly in one area, they are more likely to not vote for something that's important in another area like this. So that aside, I also need to possibly consider and this has been bandied about in the past, where we say maybe we should start considering and seriously talking about becoming a city. Because this problem with Wayne County, I don't think is going to go away. I don't see that Wayne County is going to get out of their financial woes and then all of a sudden they're going to come with $1,000. Go ahead, Grozil, repay. So, I mean, I don't know where we go from here, but I think that we should seriously start talking about those as alternatives. Because if this vote doesn't go through in November, what is our plan B?
Well, since I have peeled back that onion, that might be going the city route could be Plan A if the residents want it. But every time I bring up that issue, the first thing I hear, and this is just for public consumption, the first thing I hear is, all you want to do is tax us more. Then I have to show them the millage list and show them how many are already voter approved. We already provide all the municipal services any city, police, fire, water, sewer, that any city provides. That wouldn't change. Mm-hmm. So the difference would be we go out, I think it was Grosse Pointe Farms was the last township that became a city, and I believe it took them 4 votes to get a charter approved. So we take their city manager out to lunch, find out what they did right, what they did wrong, and we might get a buy-in too. Or maybe the voters don't want that at all, or maybe we'd have to make that sales pitch. I don't know. Another option I'm looked at is petitioning the legislature to revise the McNitt Act. That's another opportunity, and change the road funding formula. But those could be going concurrently with this. I mean, we've identified what we're going to fix. These are smart people working real hard. How we're going to fund it remains the obstacle right now. So one way or the other, we all know this has to be done. How we go about it is, I guess, goes from you to us.
Yeah, I think those are appropriate comments, and the only thing I could add based on my past experience is the one big question, I think you're right about all the taxes. I don't think there'd be much change. Mm-hmm. We're already have a number of mills levied for capital projects and debt and operations. So that could all be a simple process to become a city. I think the key to me would be is, cities and villages get their road money directly, whereas townships do not. It goes through the county. And we have not asked Michigan Department of Transportation to calculate. We could. Township manager could ask, and finance director, what would the Act 51 receipts be for the island community? And maybe part of this would be to ask that question formally of MDOT and have them come back with a calculation. I don't know what it would be. Might be over $1 million a year. I don't know.
Nope.
But that would mean
we've peeled that onion back too.
Oh, you already have it. Already
it
done.
Wouldn't be $1 million?
If we got on Act 51 funding, we would still need this millage. It would hardly be catch-up money.
Well, and I think the report goes on to say that I'll say it today again, Riverview City in 2012 passed 3 mills for 10 years. It was approved overwhelmingly. This past election in May, the city of Ferndale passed a road and park millage for $45 million for 10 years. And in the November ballot, and I've given you this report before, some 50 communities had road millages on, 74 communities had road millages on the ballot last November. And 85% of them were approved. There was a whole range of things. Royal Oak, Farmington Hills passed 2 mills for 10 years. Southfield passed a $99 million issue to fix their roads. Some of them were county roads, by the way, where Oakland County just won't get to address them. And in our county, looking at the federal money that comes in for resurfacing, Wayne County, out of their 2,000 plus miles, can do 15 miles a year. I told you this before, that Meridian between Parkway and Church was on the 2013 list, number 74, moved up to number 72 on the 2014 list, and that for this year it's dropped back to 86 based on other roads in the county. So they told us, the manager was there, that we will never qualify for federal aid. And if we do become a city, the only comment is, we don't want the bridge.
That's true. Forgot about that.
Well,
Dam Bridge.
I peeled back that onion too, and according to Miss Dingle, who is no longer part of Wayne County, unfortunately, but knowledgeable on the subject, that would remain. It's in two communities. It would remain a Wayne County bridge. There is a bridge between Ecorse and Detroit. It's kind of out of service now on Jefferson. That's a county bridge. So is that precedent? I don't know. Would we be tied up in court? Probably.
As you know, they keep throwing that up to us.
I know,
We meet with them,
but
how much they spend a year keeping our bridge going. So
that could be, and that could be a deal breaker. This is obviously not an easy task. If it was easy, we'd have done it. You know, this is going to take a lot of work. You've done most of it. Now some of it gets kicked over to us, and we work with you and try to get it done. Whatever the voters want is, whatever the owners want is what we do.
all we can do is ask.
Okay, anybody, or is there a stone left unturned on this?
Can I sit down now?
Mr. Kostick, let you, yes.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you.
But, just in why he's winding his way back to the Public Service Commission, great job, guys. I mean, you're carrying the heavy load, and we'll just, make the presentation, and we'll see what the voters say. Somebody in the control room keeps muting my mic, but I have a little control here. I can.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to the well too often. Okay, I won't. She turned me down again. All right, that concludes our presentations. With that, open the microphone to brief public comment. Limited to agenda items. Public comment on the agenda items tonight. And Mr. Heil.
My name is Bill Heil. I reside at 29228 East River Road, Grosse Ile. I'm concerned about an issue that you've heard me talk about before, at least some of you. It was back at the Police Commission a year or more ago when we were dealing then with the millage that we approved for the police. A year later, we've approved a millage for recreation. Tonight we're talking about something that I certainly agree is very necessary. I actually made comment and put a letter on my website after I had run for office this last time, explaining my concerns about these needs and that we address them for the future. I've also attended a pension discussion that you had one night. And there's one question that haunts me about the way we are functioning, and I'm going to ask you now, again. Do you know what the impact of all of this is on our tax base, long term? Have you discussed that? And let me explain the concept if I need to.
Let me ask you, which agenda item?
I'm talking about what we just got done talking about here on the sewers and the roads.
Is that technically an agenda item, or is that?
Well,
you already have the mic, so you can.
Was this not on the agenda?
No, this was just a presentation.
Excuse me, if I'm out of place, then I guess I need to sit down, right?
Well, you're already up. You could probably come back at the end, so go ahead and finish
What
up.
I've got here is on my mind is something that's like a stack of pancakes. And when do they fall over? You've got a pancake called pensions, or you've got a pancake called police millage, or a pancake called recreation. And I happen to agree with the observation that Ted made. Certainly the roads are important. Certainly the water. But if there's another issue here that's hanging out there, and we probably should incorporate it at the same time so that in the long term, with interest rates lower than they'll be in the future, with the fact that it could save roads from being torn up, maybe it needs to be added. But here's the concern, and I don't remember exactly where I got this from. I know conceptually. Rick Snyder, 2 or 3 years ago, was big about something I think was called scorecard or something like this. It was a way for public transparency. You'd put this in the, all your records would be public and anybody could look at them. Somehow, looking into that and doing some reading, I came up with this concept that when your millage reaches something like, anything in the high 30s is beginning to get a little bit, they don't ease exactly, but by the time you reach 50, 52 mils, you're effectively in a downward spiral. Because what happens is that people, when they buy homes, we know there's a process with a mortgage. The mortgage company wants to make sure you can pay and sustain what you're at. They not only care that you've got a good job, you've got to have the financial wherewithal. And you can't change your utility bills. They're there. You've got insurance to pay. None of that changes. But the only thing you've got left after the interest is the property value itself. And if you have to pay more out in taxes, ultimately something's got to give, and it would be the value of the house. If we pack enough millage on this thing over and over without some attention to where we might cut costs somewhere else in our budget, I know every year we say we've cut it to the bone. But the point is there's something going on there. And I'm honestly concerned about it, and that's why I'm standing here. I didn't mean to be out of place in time, Brian. But I believe that has to be addressed. I, as a taxpayer, as a member of this community, would be happy if we could somehow coordinate what we have to do with that wastewater treatment plant, what we have to do with these drains that are connected to the, I'm sorry, I don't remember the thing down at the bottom, footings, thank you. I couldn't come up with the word footings. A variety of those issues and come to grips with them. We might be able to make the road wider, but have a pinch point because it's not possible. But I would feel better if all of this was in some way coordinated in a broader point of view. And I'm delighted to hear you bringing up these other thoughts. I mean, I've talked with Brian years ago about the idea of being a city. And there's gains and there's losses from it all. You might be able to put a sales tax on something. And people who come here for lunch and live somewhere else, you might put a sales tax if you were a city. But it's
not under Michigan law.
Okay, excuse me, I'm out of place there. I'm trying to say that there's pros and cons to all of this. Having to have it all together by August 11th, I think is the date I heard, that sounds like a tall order. But the fact that you would be thinking of these concepts, what else is hanging out there? I mean, what other pancake are we going to throw? Are we done with the state of Michigan on our wastewater treatment plant? See? So it keeps piling up. I don't know right now what the number of mills are we have against our values, but at a certain point, if the value of the property starts to drop because people can't afford that issue, you've got a downward spiral developing. And you take a look at a city like River Rouge. I'm going to say it's 52 mills, okay? That's the number that's in my head. I'm close. And any town that's challenged is going to have that higher. I'll get off. I'd like to hear you guys address these issues and see that you can get them coordinated. That's my bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Okay, any other public comment on agenda items tonight? Everything. Okay, with none offered, we'll move on then to we'll close the initial public comment, move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 15-026, which includes the minutes of the May 11th, 2015 regular meeting, check registers dated May 22nd, May 29th, and June 5th, Wayne County annual permits, annual pavement restoration, special events permits, and street sweeping permit.
Support.
Okay, motion by the treasurer, supported by trustee Budney. Discussion among the board on these consent agenda items. Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to action items, and we'll step to Mr. Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor, the proposed legislation here is for the Grosio Yacht Club fireworks display. The proposed motion is based on a recommendation of Grosio Township Fire Marshal to grant a fireworks permit to Mark Belazzi, the Wolverine fireworks display, to provide a public fireworks display on July 3rd, 2015, with a rain date of July 4th, 2015.
Support.
Okay, moved by Mr. Malvesto, seconded by, I think it was Clerk Ranka. This is the annual fireworks permit. Mark Balazzi is representing Grosio Yacht Club, and Wolverine Fireworks to be the contractor. They have the insurance in place. I don't know if they've contracted with him before. I'm not the fireworks expert. Questions on from the board on approval of the permit? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the permit as between Wolverine Fireworks and Grosse Ile Yacht Club and Grosse Ile Township. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Let's move to action item number 2. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This motion is seeking approval to amend the policies and procedures, Finance Administration Section 4.3C, to include fees for return checks to cover the additional cost when a check is returned. A fee in the amount of $50 will be charged for return checks from online checks and water department or water payment checks and closed accounts, or any checks that came through as stop payment or bank draft.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Ost, seconded by Trustee Budney.
Just by way of explanation, we don't get a lot, but we do get some NSF checks or some checks that are drawn on accounts. It costs the township anywhere from $30 to $75, not including the labor to chase the money down or go after it. So we decided this fee would be appropriate. We need to amend our policies and procedures manual so that we can go ahead and start administering this cost to anybody that gives us NSF checks.
Okay, questions from the board regarding this change in the policies, procedures? Okay. None offered. Those in favor of amending policies, procedures, Finance Administration Section 4.3C to include fees for return checks to the amount of $50, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. That will be amended. Action item number 3 will move to Mr. Budney.
One of our annual favorite motions. Motion to authorize adjustment to the water rates, excuse me, from $9.15 per 1,000 gallons to $9.60 per 1,000 gallons, effective July 1st, 2015, based upon the recommendation of the DPS Commission.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Treasurer Van Ost. Do we want to give the background? Do you want to give the background? Have Ms. Beneteau?
I will have her come up and support me on this while she's walking up. Yep.
Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Okay. The Detroit Water and Sewer Department established a fixed monthly cost recovery back in 2010 to cover the usage decline and revenue shortfalls for wholesale customers. Each year, the fixed monthly cost has increased. Grosse Ile's new fixed monthly charge will go from $45,580 to $58,400, which is a 28.12% increase. The billed price for water usage dropped 17.46%. From $13.17 to $10.87. So the combined overall increase imposed on Grosse Ile by the City of Detroit is 8.4% over last year. The proposed rates of going from $9.15 to $9.60 is an increase of 4.9%. The sewer rates remain the same as they were last year, $3.12 per 1,000 gallons. The combined amount of the water and sewer goes up from $12.75 per 1,000 gallons to $13.20 per 1,000 gallons. The average household uses 25,000 gallons per quarter, which would reflect an increase of $11.25 per quarter.
Anything to add?
Anything to add. Thank you for standing there and pretending.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lorinda. Basically, it's, Detroit Water and Sewerage passes on this, it gives us this increase each year. And
because of the revenue shortfall.
And
right.
we have to pass it on in order to
We
make our payment.
don't pass on as much.
And we don't. Theirs was 8.4%. Ours is only 4.9%.
Anything the residents need to know? This is the old idea of the knowns, the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And you recall not that long ago we were considering a water tower. And we could save a bunch of money when we could buy water at the low rates and then distribute it to the residents and save them money that way. And it was a no-brainer at the time. Then they changed the formula to your connection fee is now a major portion. Just being connected, whether you use a drop or not, a major part of your cost is just being connected, and a much less on the per.
Over the past 5 years, that's how they've done it on a monthly basis. Now they're up to they're 60% of where they want to be collecting from all the communities now. That's their fixed monthly rate.
Yeah.
But that monthly rate, that fixed monthly rate, is still based on usage.
It's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
So what are we missing other than, I don't know if I should bring it up now or bring it up later, about the Highland Park debacle that's going to hit us right between the eyes too. But the only good news is the splash park. I'm right. So anyway, this is correct me where I'm wrong. This is what we have to pass on to our residents, to the owners, to keep potable water delivered to their homes and to take the wastewater off, treat it, and return it to the environment.
Correct.
It's just the cost of doing business. Much of it out of our control, other than everything I'm getting hit with. I guess at the moment I'm glad we've got the wastewater treatment plant, because there's going to be some communities getting an unknown surprise. We're getting a known unknown surprise, and I'm not happy with it either. But where did I leave out, Ms. Benedetto?
I think you've hit everything between you and Jim. You've said it all.
Well, that's any question? I'm sorry for hogging it, but any other questions for Ms. Benedetto? Smiling faces. All right, with none offered, those in favor of authorizing the water adjustments to the water rates from $9.15 per thousand gallons to $9.60 per thousand gallons, with the caveats of the reduction in the increase based on the increased usage and lowered usage and increased connecting rate. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Thank you. That passes, and I wish we didn't have to. All right,
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk Ranka.
I'd like to recommend that the Township Board to approve the revisions to Section 3.37 and Sections 3.52.26 and the addition of Section 3.5A to the Grosville Police Department Rules and Regulations.
Support.
Okay, moved by Clerk Ranka, seconded by Trustee Smith.
So I'll give a little bit of the background, and then I'll let Chief kind of describe in a little more detail. So the Police Department Rules and Regulations were passed by the Township Board on July 25th, 1983. Section 3.37 revision, Section 3.7 revision is to add illness and surgery notifications. Section 3.52.26 are to revise and clarify what is acceptable and not acceptable for leaving a patrol vehicle running. Section 3.52A was added to notify the Chief of Police if a department member is arrested. The Grosville Police Commission approved these changes and the additions of the additions at the regular Police Commission meeting dated May 12th, 2015. Section 31.3C of the Grosville Police Officers Association contract states that any revisions of the rules and regulations must be approved by the Township Board. And I will add that both management of the police department and the union have reviewed these changes.
Are you,
Chief?
Oh, sorry. Turn it over to Chief.
As Eric stated, we derive our guidelines by three areas of the police department. One is the rules and regs, one is the contract, and one is directives that I put out. As he stated, 31.3C says we have to come to the Township Board for the rules and reg changes. Two of these are from arbitrators' rulings around the state that we try to keep up on just to make sure that the language is correct. The only one that had to do with our department was the notification to the chief of illness, injury, or upcoming surgery. They went to the Grosville Police Officers Association, filed a grievance on that after discipline was unfortunately handed out for an issue there. They lost at the commission level, and they then filed for arbitration. And before going to arbitration, just to be straight, it kind of began to go south for them, if you will, and they pulled from arbitration right away. Either way, I still wanted to go through to make adding these 2 areas to the rules and regs, and one new rule itself is the last one. So I hope you had them in your packet. You were able to review them if there's any questions. And this is just because of the section in the contract that I must come to you for this change because it's out of one of the 3 areas, the rules and regulation manual.
I want to make one clarification. Our text here on the action item says section 3.37, and in the amendment to it's section 3.35. Just a little minor clarification, but just to make sure we're talking, unless I missed something, we're talking about in the data we got 3.35 versus 3.37. I did read it.
No, I understand. But the 3.37 only was for the injury report. That's why the illness covered it and future surgeries, and that was the issue of the actual grievance and the discipline.
Okay, so 3.37 just wasn't in the board packet. It would have been on the next page.
Correct.
That's why I don't. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it then. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you didn't.
I'm just looking at what I have in the what we got in the electronic portion. Still looking at it.
Second page of the.
Got it.
It's also been reviewed by the township attorney, and again passed at the police commission level.
Okay, other questions for the chief?
Chief, did you say has there been any pushback from anybody on this? Or is everybody...
Well, they filed a grievance against me and lost.
But on this actual change?
No.
Okay.
No, there's no... I mean, in the contract, it states that we have to have disclosure to the union if I make a change. Right. And it's meaningful. I mean, we both worked on it together. It wasn't like I just told them and that's the way it was. We actually wrote it together, myself and Ken Pelland, the union president, on that issue, on the 3.37.
Okay.
Thanks, it's an attempt to clarify it after the grievance was written to make it a little bit easier for both parties to understand what's required.
Other questions for the chief? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving revisions to Section 3.37, Sections 3.52.26, and the addition of Section 3.52A, that's to the Police Department Rules and Regulations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right, moving on.
Mr. Supervisor.
Clerk.
I move to add Section 4.11A, Annual Audit, as attached to the Groesdale Township Administrative Policies and Procedures Manual.
Support.
Okay, moved by Clerk Rankin, seconded by Trustee Budney.
I'll just read the history and explanation here. On October 6, 2014, the Township filed a single audit report for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2013, which was forwarded to the U.S. Department of Justice. The audit report disclosed 2 recommendations and no question costs. The Township was required to provide a corrective action plan that adequately addressed the recommendations stated in a letter received from the U.S. Department of Justice dated November 6, 2014. A corrective action plan was submitted to the U.S. Department of Justice on November 13, 2014 as attached. The plan included the single audit report for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2014, which stated that all of the prior findings had been corrected and no additional findings had been cited, as well as a statement to let the Township know if there were any questions or if additional information was needed. On May 5th, 2015, an email was received from the U.S. Department of Justice requiring additional information in the form of a formal adopted policies and procedures as it relates to auditing procedures, including steps to ensure expenditures of federal grant funds are accurately reported on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards included in the single audit report. This action addresses the federal requirement.
Okay, this is primarily and almost exclusively the drug forfeiture funds.
It's the drug forfeiture fund.
And I do remember when the auditors were here, and I do remember as they wrapped it up, is the term squeaky clean appropriate enough? We knew where every nickel was, and that's because of Ms. Darzniak, the chief. Probably Ruth Kalidas has a good deal to do with that, but it was just a little minor administrative error.
We
and that's
corrected
what we're
everything
gonna correct.
immediately. They just wanted actual step-by-step procedures. So that's all this is doing.
And all this is getting a step-by-step
manual.
procedure that meets their standards.
Yep.
But I'm real proud as a community how closely we watch these federal dollars. There's just nothing wrong. So, other questions, comments from the board for Ms. Darzniak? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of adding a section 4.11A to annual audit as attached to the Grosse Ile Township Administrative Policies and Procedures Manual, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That stands approved. Let's see, number 6. Mr. Posiask.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. It's my pleasure to recommend to this Township Board to approve the appointments of Mr. Robert Firmstone and Ms. Donna Deppa to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission for the term length June 8th, 2015 to March 31, 2018, based on a recommendation of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission.
Okay, moved by Trustee Posiask.
Support.
Okay, I think
Thank you.
Treasurer was first, so we'll give the second to Treasurer Van Oss.
This fills 2 vacancies on the commission with 2 folks that I consider to be real powerhouses.
Well, I know Mr. Firmstone rides religiously, and he's probably one of those 200-mile-a-week cyclists. So,
Mr. Firmstone is a bicyclist for sure, and he's involved with everything in the township.
Pretty much is. Yep. Okay.
And you see our recreation director nodding her head.
Are there any questions, comments for Mr. Posiask?
Donna's going to be the same type of a rah-rah, go-get-'em type of a person that commission does want and need.
Good. Okay. Questions for Mr. Posiask? With none, those in favor of approving the appointments of Mr. Robert Firmstone and Ms. Donna Deppa to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. For the term length, already clarified, based upon the recommendation of the BPAC, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Welcome aboard, Donna and Robert. This will move us, let's see, action item number 7. Back to the clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we resolve to accept the 33rd District Court Annual Financial Audit Report for the year ending December 31st, 2014.
Okay, moved by the clerk, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss.
I'll just read the motion really briefly. It's just one of the annual things we need to do. It says, whereas the governing body of the Township of Grosse Ile has received and reviewed the annual financial report submitted by Plant Moran, PLLC, for the 33rd District Court for the year ending December 31st, 2014. Now, therefore, the Township of Grosse Ile hereby resolves that the annual financial report be accepted as submitted.
Questions for Clerk Rank? I was at the Court Management Council meeting where we did go through the audit. The representative from Plant Moran, what's the term, Ann, where they have no comments? I mean, pardon? Qualified opinion. It was a clean audit. They do run a good court, so there's no reason that I can see that we shouldn't accept it. Any other questions from the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving, let's see, through resolution, the 33rd District Court Annual Financial Audit for the year ending December 31st, 2014. Does this require a roll call vote? Don't believe it does, but okay. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. We will advise the court. We approve it. Okay, this was our added item. I will introduce, okay, and this came up, and there's a time factor on this. I recommend the Grosse Ile Township Board resolve to authorize Dale Reum, Township Manager, to sign the attached affidavit stating facts affecting real property, commonly known as 8840 Macomb Street, Grosse Ile Township, Michigan.
Support.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney, and this will open up some questions and maybe resolve some. I'll turn it over to Mr. Assorti.
Well, this is not real complicated, Mr. Supervisor. The VFW property, as many of you know, is up for sale. There is a potential purchaser of that property. During their due diligence period, the potential purchaser and their title company discovered that there were some questions regarding a complete clear chain of title. Because the township was the owner of that property in the early 1970s, and we did hold title of that property at some time, the potential purchaser and the title company have asked us to assist in cleaning up that title. So obviously we wanted to participate with that. All that they're asking for is a affidavit from the township regarding the condition of the title, the condition of the documents on record with the township. The township staff has done an extensive search of our records, and we're very clear that the facts stated in the affidavit meets the requirements. It's very limited to what the township records consist only, and it's a standard practice to clear up the title.
Questions for Mr. Assorti? Pretty straightforward operation with no questions offered. And did you say this would require? Okay. So with that, I'll just read them off. We will go to a roll call vote if there are, and there were no questions. Okay. Treasurer Van Ost.
Aye.
Trustee Budney.
Aye.
Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Clerk Ranka.
Aye.
Trustee Malvesto. Aye. Trustee Posiask.
Aye.
Supervisor Loftus. Aye. Unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Assorti. That will conclude tonight's action items. Yay. Clerk's report.
Brief clerk's report tonight. There is none.
Pretty brief. Okay. With that, Treasurer's report.
For the month of April, Grosse Ile Township had a total of $11,598,230 invested in various accounts. These accounts generate an interest income of just shy of $4,000 with an average interest rate of 0.33%. It's going up. The Township's Treasurer's Office is preparing the upcoming 2015 summer tax bills. Mortgage companies are sending tax bill requests for escrow properties. All Grosse Ile property owners are mailed the original tax bill, and the mortgage companies are sent the duplicate tax bills. Dog park passes are available for 2015 to Treasurer's Office. Cost of $10 for residents, $20 for non-residents. Must have a valid pet license to obtain a dog park pass. We have a Commerce Park meeting next Monday, and I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. This time we'll move on to trustee reports. We'll start with Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Wanted to give everybody an update here as far as the boardroom technology. As you can see or hear, Phase 4 of the communication upgrades have been completed in this boardroom. So now this room actually can be utilized as a backup operations center for the police and fire departments. Project started on May 21st and was completed on the 28th. And I want to thank Ted for actually coordinating the installation of this and conducting a brief overview for us prior to the meeting. I'm really impressed by the audio so far. It seems very easy, clean, and just based on your microphone alone in hearing it, it's much improved. So hopefully the viewers at home are experiencing that same outcome. Everybody knows that Island Fest was previous weekend. Friday evening, in my opinion, was the busiest I've ever seen it. It was a fantastic fireworks show. It was a fantastic entertainment as far as the musical groups were considered, and good sales all the way around. So it's been successful from that. Saturday started out good, but then, slowly went downhill from there and, kind of proceeded through Sunday. So unfortunately, sales kind of slowed. That cold and rainy weather persisted. It was miserable. But despite all of this, the financials are not quite final, but it is looking good. So we probably will not be coming back to anybody asking for additional funds. We'll have some numbers to share at the next meeting. Want to make sure that the Festival Commission has an opportunity to review everything before I share that. Let's see, what else can I say? We will be doing a recap of this year's event to determine what we're gonna do for next year, as well as what the dates and times are gonna be. But before I hand it over, I certainly want to give my thanks to everybody who participated, not only as sponsors and vendors and whatnot, but also to the hard work of the commission, to all the township staff, including Ann, Dale, and everybody else here, the public safety department. They always do a great job for us, so it's great to have them and working hand in hand with them. But also all the local volunteers who came in and put in their time, even when it was rainy. So they were here and they did a good job. So I really appreciate it. I know that the commission will certainly be thankful for all their hard work and dedication. Oh wait. Yeah, wait. No, I was just thinking, freighter apps. I know that we've had, some concerns with the ships and whatnot, and I was looking, and there's Ship Finder, and then there's also Marine Traffic. There's some free apps out there, but if you pay $3.99, you get to know who they are, where they're going, estimated time of arrival, how fast they're moving, all the other good stuff. So that may help with the whole bridge up and down.
Find some volunteers to try it out.
Yeah. That's it. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. We'll move on. Let's see, Mr. Molesto.
I don't have anything this evening, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Molesto. Mr. Budney.
Yes. DPS meeting tomorrow. You can guess one of the big topics will be the road and water improvements. We do have a ZBA meeting this month. We actually have 2 appeals, so it'll be twice as good. That's really all I have. I do have to ask one question. I was approached by a resident this weekend talking about a number of things, and they asked me to ask this question, so I will. On the hockey rink and the money that we loan them, how much of it has been paid back? That's not a fair question to you, because has any been paid back? Very little. Okay. And do we have any fundraisers for this year? Because the year is, usually if it's a golf outing or something, that's slipping away quickly. Okay. Good enough. Thank you. I can carry that back to them. Thanks a lot.
Enjoy the dunk tank too, Jim.
Yeah, I will.
There'll be a line.
There'll be a line. Wow. That's an all-day affair.
Forgive my lack of professionalism. Anything else, Mr. Budney?
Thank you. No.
Okay. Mr. Posiask.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and thank you all for being brief, because I'm not. First of all, Brandy Boyd, you showed your muscle and your effect to me. And I want to thank you personally for the way, that you showed your face and your department's colors through that weekend. You did a great job.
Welcome aboard.
Great initiation. Number 2, Greenways Open Space Committee. Our next meeting will be July 7th. And we'll probably be discussing lifting the ban on wood cutting at that point. As you know, we shut it down because of the oak wilt situation. So that'll give you 2 good reasons to come. The other one is Woody's very entertaining. Okay? DPS meeting, as was mentioned, is tomorrow night. And BPAC's next meeting is June 16th. BPAC is going to have a lot on their plate this summer. Number 1, the bricks are in. The last remaining order of bricks came in on the Friday of Island Fest and were stored, and our contractor knows that he has to come back and reset the bricks to make it look good around the fountain. And we've talked once, and I'll talk to him again, and we'll get it done pretty short order, I'm pretty sure. Second, we've got some issues with our bike paths and with our bridges, and we are addressing them. We've been working towards coming up with some solutions for the last 2 or 3 months. And I've given all the members of the board a couple of documents. One of them is an estimate put together by our engineers regarding the magnitude of repairs that are recommended to be done on the bike path paving process. And the other document comes from the person who built our bridges, or two of the three of our bridges, and has walked with us very detailed as to what is needed on the bridges. Might I just say that we haven't really given these bridges a great deal of preventative maintenance, and it's starting to show. Last fall, we had a lot of wood replaced, and there is still some more wood to be done, but it's troubling that one of these bridges is showing some rotting or punking of the top of the stringers that the walking boards are sitting on. And so that bridge is going to have to be, that's the Meridian Bridge. It's going to have to be picked up plank at a time and epoxy sealed. If you're a boater, you know of something called dry rot repair. It's the same sort of an epoxy fix to these joists will be required to preserve the bridge in its current condition. If we do this, the bridge is going to be good for another 20 years, provided we give it the regular maintenance that it needs. And quite frankly, I think we were inadequate in our maintenance, and you don't know that until it happens. But power washing these bridges did them more harm than good, and we gave a lot of damage to some of the top services by the way we did it. So this package that we've got on the wood bridges will also include cleaning and sealing the planks once the repairs are done, all done by the same contractor, hopefully. I'd strongly urge the board members to take a look at the package and give great consideration to the possibility of just awarding it to the person that built the bridges. But I understand if you feel that it's necessary to bid too. So give me your thoughts throughout this next couple of weeks. As far as the repairs to the asphalt and minimal concrete work on the bike paths, we had our engineers go through and do an extensive end-to-end review of the bike paths like we did the last time. Unfortunately, our execution last time took us through 2 winters and 2 contractors and a whole lot of agitation, and I don't want to have that happen again. I have asked for bids to be placed or to be requested based upon the Rain's estimate for the asphalt repairs to come up with quotes and rather quickly so that we can get this thing going in July. And now it's June, so we don't have a lot of time. I would hope that we can get this put on our agendas, realizing further that the maintenance budget for bike paths, we will burn up about $120,000 fixing asphalt and another $40,000 fixing wood. All necessary. We're going to keep our bike paths in first-class condition. The bottom line of this is that it doesn't leave a lot in our fund, which means that Wally is going to be coming to the board members using that M word down the road, millage. We have to find a maintenance fund for this. If we want to keep them in first-class shape, we have to take care of them. End of my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Posiask. Let's see, moving on. Township Attorney, Mr. Assorti.
A couple quick items. The first is to address what Ms. Gray presented to you at the study session regarding, as you all know and as the community probably knows, there's major modifications to the FOIA laws in the state of Michigan that are going to go in effect in July 1st. And I just want to compliment the clerk's office on putting together the necessary information to meet the compliance with that. It's an outstanding job, and it's not been an easy one to comply with. It's highly work intensive, and they've done a great job of getting it to where it needs to be so that we're complete compliance starting the 1st of July. The second matter is the lawsuit that all of you are named defendants in and parties to. We're currently working with Judge Popke's clerks to schedule as soon as possible the motions that we can get in to have the case dismissed against the individual defendants. Finally, the Real Road, I know that I've gotten a lot of questions regarding the Real Road apartments. They are now in a condition that Chief Murdoch is comfortable with from a safety perspective on a short-term basis until we can get the matter done. I just recently had a conversation with both the broker and the receiver that's been put in place over the property. There's, for whatever reason, hopefully weather, condition, whatever it is, a substantial increase in interest in the property. And it looks like we're going to get to a resolution of that matter quicker rather than later. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gasorti. Let's see. Township Manager, Mr. Ream.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to report a few brief items to the community. Not that you guys sitting up there need to hear this, but I wanted to remind that the township is advertised, and we were seeking qualified candidates for a DPS Maintenance 2 position, and that application deadline is this Thursday the 11th, and that can be done by sending a cover letter and resume to my office or emailing me at dalr@groseal.com. And I guess I wanted to expand a little bit on the presentation earlier about the roads and the sewer. I know different commissioners covered different aspects of things, but really I just want to let everyone know how hard they as a group worked. I believe it started in 2011, 2012. And obviously the entire commission was instrumental, but obviously the leadership of Chairman Kostick and the leadership of Trustee Budney kept this whole project rolling. It wasn't just let's put together an idea, we know we need to fix our roads. It was what can we get Wayne County to do first, and how do we need to go about doing this. And they studied the water in relationship to this as capital needs. So in some instances, why would you come back in a year or 2 or 3 and tear up a road you just repaired? We knew that we were going to plan this out, and every effort was done. And really what impressed me is not only did they drive around in vans, packed shoulder to shoulder, school bus trips, stopping, blocking the street, looking through, looking at. They tried to figure the best way to get a bigger bang for a buck. And that's why you saw 3 different types of road repairs: the chip seal, the cover repair, and the entire remove and replace. And worked very, very hard with the county. And before they get to this point, they wanted to get an answer from Wayne County to make sure that there were no surprises. We're going to communicate what our deliverables are going to be, and we don't want the county to come back and tell us later that it's not going to happen. And again, a lot of time, a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, very instrumental in getting this project to where it is. And I guess I get the questions, well, why in the heck will we pay for our roads? You heard that earlier. The county's broke, and it's a safety matter. It protects your property values. So they're only going to get worse. Look what happened from the last 2 winters, which really turned it horribly quick. But I just want to communicate to all that the hard work and thought that the commission, as well as this board, has put into this, and want the community to recognize that, because the goal is having safe roads, protect our property values, and do it in an affordable manner. And because of all the thought, we could have easily said we need $30-40 million and we'll have everything completely taken care of and buttoned up. But was that reasonable? No. So I just wanted to share my thoughts as township manager with the community on how much work and effort everyone's put into that. And I think it is a very, very good program. So with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rim. Obviously, we all appreciate the efforts going into it, and hopefully the owners will support in this project. Okay, I'm going to cover some nuts and bolts and then some personal opinion because this is getting to be a kind of a dark time, at least for me. But the good news is congratulations to the class of 2015, the high school. Done with high school, off to college and who knows what else. Behave yourselves. Kiwanis Club of Grosse Ile has initiated the flag sponsorship. I'm sure you've seen some of the four corners where they'll have all the flags. It really looks good. Cost is $40 for 6 flag displays with a choice of display location. Includes Township Hall, Memorial Garden, Macomb Commons, anywhere you want them. Front of your house. Subscriptions can be made up to June 20th. There are flyers for this in the back of the room, and it just looks good. Let's see. Okay, on Saturday, June bunch coming up next Saturday, June 13th from 9 till noon, Grosse Ile Golf and Country Club, providing secure document disposal and electronics recycling. By secure document disposal, it means shredding. Electronics recycling is a little more involved. There is a charge for that, but it's in the tennis court parking lot entering off Bellevue Road. There's a charge for some electronics recycling. Any donations received will benefit the Grosse Ile Animal Shelter. Okay, fun stuff, blessing of the bicycles, and some bicycle safety, and basically kind of a fun ride. June 13th, 3 p.m., St. James Episcopal Church. Also going on that day is the Firefighters Golf Outing, which is a fundraiser for the Grosse Ile Volunteer Firefighters Association. I don't know if there are any openings left. This is a pretty popular event. A lot of fun. The Island of My Garage sale, Friday and Saturday, August 21st and 22nd. A bunch of other things going on that day, but this is all Carol gave me to present. So there's flyers for that in the back of the room. Let's see. And Township Hall will be closed in honor of the 4th of July holiday on Friday, July 3rd, and opening for business on Monday morning. Other stuff, Van Horn Road. I hope we pushed out the information as best we could, but Van Horn Road is closed at the grade Canadian National Railway grade crossing just north of Van Horn, Allen Road. So don't go that way because you're not going to make it. And that's supposed to be closed until Friday. Pardon? Oh, one battle at a time, Les. It took us forever to find out about it, too. It was kind of a surprise. I wasn't real happy about that. But anyway, pushed it out as best we could. Let's see. Okay, the fun stuff. Actually, it's not fun. We are going to get hit. If you've been following, this hasn't hit too much of the news, but there was a judgment. Courts are at it again for the Wayne County Retirees Fund. The short version is all Wayne County residents are going to be done another 1.0192 mils to cover the Wayne County pension shortfall. Sorry, that's from the county. That's a court order, and I don't know if it's going to be in our summer. What's it going to be? I'd have to sit and read this. I just got this, but it's coming. It's another mill I believe it's a one-time to cover the pension shortfall. So thought we dodged that one, but nope. What else? I'm getting beat up on the splash park. Some of it justified, some other issues. There's one movement for a rec center with an Olympic-sized swimming pool in it. Why don't we have that instead of the splash park? Well, first of all, nobody pushed that issue. First, it was brought up to me as a school issue, and I said, address the schools. But I did remind them that we did have, that as long as I've been here, we've had 2 millages that went before the school, that the school board had put on the ballot for a replacement pool, for lack of a better word. We did have one on the island, but for an indoor pool for the schools to use, defeated both times. We did have a rec center on the island at one time. I don't know how long ago that went defunct, but I've been here since '87, and it hasn't been there, I think, in that time frame. Pardon? It was private? Okay. Thank you. Anyway, so I threw this over to our rec director, who seems to be able to find answers to anything. What would it cost? And I just went to the top for an 8-lane, 50-meter pool, indoor pool. The price was just over $3 million. And I just did quick numbers for a 20,000 square foot building to house this, including the decks, plumbing, all the other access, bleachers, the whole works. 20,000 square feet, figure 100 feet by 200 feet because a 50-meter pool is just over 150 feet long and decking and everything. That was going to be in the neighborhood of, today's price is $3 million. So for an indoor pool in a rec center somewhere on the island to build it from scratch, vicinity of $6 million. You know, if the residents want that and the schools want to handle it or they want us to handle it, enough people come up, convince the board to put it on the millage. I don't really see that happening, but I'm open to suggestions. So that's offhand what it would cost to build a rec center with an Olympic-sized pool. I think 50 meters is your Olympic pool. Somebody here knows more about that than I do. Is that? Thank you, Mrs. Walker. So that's my opinion on that, and you can go from there. And, okay, that was all the bad stuff. The other thing is, Mrs. Gray is looking for election inspectors as we are redistricting the township. So if you would like to become an election inspector, if you would like to learn how to be an election inspector, contact you.
Yes, contact me at extension 234 or stop by the office, or you can find the application on our website.
And you get to see all your friends as they come through the polling places. Okay, that concludes my report. So at this time, we have a discussion item while we're on the subject of elections, of voter precinct redistricting.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I wanted to give Brian and Sharon and Gail to some extent as well a big thanks for doing a lot of the research and getting this set. So what we're talking about is about a year ago when we found out that the VFW Hall was going to be no longer available as a polling location. We needed to find an alternate location. St. James Church was gracious enough to let us use their facility as a polling location in addition to the rec center, to the Centennial Farm and to the Presbyterian Church. After running an election cycle there, it was very apparent that having two distinct precincts in St. James is very crowded. So we took the opportunity to look at how many districts we actually need on the island, or how many precincts we actually need, how many we should have, and if there's any opportunities for cost savings or staff savings or anything else. What we discovered is that we could go down to 5 precincts, I think relatively easy. And while it's a minor cost savings from a standpoint of having one less precinct to manage and to staff, it's also much easier to find election inspectors to run 5 precincts versus 6 precincts. So we felt it would be a good idea to take the opportunity to do a minor redistricting to go from 6 to 5. We could go lower from a state statute standpoint, but this does allow us to still have in what we think will be very short election lines, and will allow us to manage the facility at St. James a little bit more efficiently. So there would actually be less people going through there, and maybe less traffic doing 2 different precincts in there versus doing 1 precinct in there. So working with the State Elections Bureau, we've got what after several iterations of what we think is now a good precinct redistribution map, going from 6 to 5. So the process will take a short time, but I expect that in the November election we will be in the new precincts. So cards will be coming out shortly. There will be some publications in the Il Camera and on the website. Sharon, if there's some more to add, feel free to jump in.
Well, nothing really to add. Thank you. You covered most everything. I do want to assure people that if they do have questions, please come in and see us, and we'll show you the map. You will get a card in the mail with your new precinct location and voting precinct number. Some of you will be moving to a different building. Some of you will be staying put, but in a different precinct. And some of you won't be affected at all. So just look at the card and see if you are affected. And if you do have questions, please let us know.
We'll get the new map up on the website here very shortly as well. So it is a discussion item. I know we had a discussion with the board beforehand as well, but if there are any questions from the board, obviously feel free to bring them up as well.
I don't know. I got upgraded from the 6th precinct to the 5th precinct, so I'm moving up. Basically, it's pretty cut and dried. It was
Yeah,
the
I think
right
it's
thing
I think
to do.
I think it's a pretty cut and dry. Like I said, losing the VFW hall as a polling location gave us pause to really think about how we're running the elections. And I think this is a good opportunity to go from 6 precincts to 5, have a little bit of a cost savings, and also have a little bit easier time finding election inspectors. But we still do need election inspectors. So if you're interested, it's a noble and worthy cause, and there is actually a paycheck involved as well.
And if I might add, inspectors can be of any age bracket. We are happy to see high school students volunteer to be inspectors, college students who can be home during election time, and our senior citizens are super inspectors because they know everybody that comes through the precinct. So please consider stepping up and becoming an inspector for us.
Okay, that'll since we pretty much beat this up in the study session. It wasn't beat up. It was a job well done, and it had to be done. I guess thank you, St. James, for allowing us the use of their facility as a polling place, and the Presbyterian Church also. With that, we'll move on to public comment. Oh, and we have a new face here, so I'm gonna 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, please. I'm going to invite Miss Lavalier to speak. Kathy, nice to see you.
My name is Kathy Lavalier. I live on Hickory Island, and I appreciate the chance to talk to you tonight. The reason that I came to talk was about the proposed, is it called Splash Park? One of the comments was that the current pool is losing money, said it lost $33,000. I don't think that facilities like that should be expected to be self-sustaining by their own fees. So that is not a surprise to me as a citizen. We are very fortunate in this area to have 2 fine public play facilities within 6 miles of us. We already have the wave pool at Lake Erie Metro Park, and we also have the Trenton pool, which is a fine facility. You can take a 2-year-old there and let them wade in. I've been to the Trenton pool often since 1988, and for the last 10 years I've taken classes there in the evening, and I'm very familiar with their schedule. The pool, as elaborate and as beautiful as the facility is, it only supports being open 2 nights. So even though you have a town that's much larger than us, Trenton, and many, many more people living in a 5-mile radius than we have here, the facility is not used a whole lot. And when I look at the idea of this pool, I say there isn't a need for this product. You talk about the familiar faces in the crowd. I'm not one of them, but I look at that, and I look and I say, bad vibes, honey. This is not going to be a good deal for the town. I don't see a need for the product, and I don't see much of use for it. Also, secondly, I'm looking at the Channels Rec Department, and I've lived here for a long time, and I usually took my kids to Trenton for the summer activities because the ones here were so expensive. If you have a 3rd grader that's interested in learning a little about basketball, for them to go for 4 mornings for 2 hours, it costs $63. I don't know who's making money on this thing, but if they have 20 people, they're going to gross $1,260 for a 4-day, 2-hour class, and that seems like an exorbitant cost to me. I don't know who's been getting the money, but it's been a regular practice in Grosseto for a long time. The cheapest rec program in the whole book is for the kids to go in the Trenton Swim Club. They can swim 35 times plus swim meets for $75. So I think we need to review the cost structure of these. And if you're going to dump $600,000 into things, dump it into subsidies for the residents so that our younger residents who are strapped anyway and awful spending $10,000 a year for child care expenses don't get strapped again when they want their 3rd grader to learn how to play basketball.
Thank you, Ms. Lavalier. Okay, I'm looking for Mr. Walker.
Good evening. I'm also going to talk about the Splash Park. I read the supervisor's letter to the EO camera roughly a week ago, and he pointed out a couple of things that I was not aware of. The pool complex had lost $22,000 last year, and it's forecast to lose $33,000 this year. That's a lot of money. The splash park, according to the supervisor, is going to cost approximately $600,000. That's also a lot of money. Some of the money, or the initial expenditure, would come through, let's see, the term is internal borrowing. And I take it that that's the rec department borrowing from the general fund for a period of time. Am I correct?
Not exactly, but it gets to the same place. It's internal. It's dollars we have we're not using immediately.
Okay.
So.
Okay. There are bonds that are going to be repaid within 3 years. I think that's the bonds that are on the restaurant over at Water's Edge. And when those are repaid, then whatever tax dollars were retiring those bonds is available for other purposes. I think they could probably be allocated to something more beneficial than the splash park. The one thing that, the last item that I really focused in on, the splash park will not increase taxes. It should generate revenue instead of continued losses. It's only going to generate all of the things on the township, all the things at Water's Edge right now generate revenue, but most of them operate at a loss. And that is true of the current pool complex. You'll have to generate enough additional revenue to cover all of your costs. All of the costs that are currently there for the big pool, for the little pool, which is going to be replaced. I don't think this is feasible. I think you're going to end up with one money-losing thing being replaced by a second money-losing thing. And I think it would be very nice if the Township Board would reconsider this topic, given all of the comments that I think you're receiving from taxpayers and voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mrs. Walker.
Walker Knight.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I spent some time looking at the opinions of the letters to the editor. I read yours in depth, Mr. Supervisor. And my questions start out, you had a lot of glowing words, not a lot of facts. There's not a lot of detail. There's not a lot of detail in this whole presentation. And I was kind of concerned about that. I kept thinking, why wasn't there a formal survey going to the public? I know when we did the website, we sent it out to 5,000 residents. We didn't get a whole lot of responses, but we did our due diligence. This was not done. And your personal Facebook, no offense, but it's kind of sided with you, people like-minded. So it's not an independent survey. And you said it was overwhelming, your responses. Well, I don't know what overwhelming means. Does it mean 3 people said yay and they all said it was great, or did 1,500 people, or, you have 10,300 people who live on the island. What percentage said to you overwhelmingly, this is a great idea? So then I started looking into this. And I said, we need to look at some numbers because that's what I do. So here we go. I did a little, and this is something quick for the public. Okay, it should be on. I sent Ted the thing. I don't know if he put it up. But I just brought a copy. And I did this very simply. Okay, break even. You mentioned, especially in your back end, and Mr. Walker just mentioned that, about generating revenue. You already generate revenue. You don't generate a profit. You generate a loss. But you do generate revenue. You generate expenses. And you're not going to lose that loss. And all I had to go by were 2 audit reports. I don't know what you had. You said every let me get it correctly. You said every year I have records for. Well, there were only 2 records on the website under the finance department. It was the audit report for the pool for year ending 3/31/13 and 3/31/14. So what I did, and this is rough, dirty, but it works. I took the categories 13, 14, took your revenue for both years, did averages. That's all I did. I got an average loss of 23,000. You can live with that. It could be 23, it could be 30, it could be 20. It doesn't matter. So then I looked at that and I said, okay, let's annualize this thing, because you're still going to have maintenance on the bigger pool. You're going to have more maintenance on this $660,000 project. That was the number I heard at the rec department meeting when I went to it. So then I went to this, because this is what I do. I looked at the splash park. I annualized it over, 15 years, how many visits in 100 days. How you can use 100 days is illogical. You don't have 100 good days of weather in Michigan. We all know this is Michigan. So far, we haven't had a damn good day, and it's June. And so we'd never get 100 good days. But if you did, if everything worked perfect and the Tooth Fairy was here, you'd get 88 people a day additional just to pay for that annualized fee for 15 years. Then you've got to look at how much is the additional loss that this revenue isn't going to cover your loss, isn't going to cover your maintenance. So you add that. And again, it could be 23,000, it could be 30, whatever the number. I don't have anything more than 2 years. So I came down to this. Then you go over to the revenue with no profit yet. The estimated projected cost is over $1 million. Annualized each year is 67. Number of visits, 13,000 visits. Hard to believe. And 135 a day. So every day it rains, you got to make up that 135 people. So the potential population, again, we talked about this before. You have from the census, you have under 2,000 people, 17 and under. We extrapolated it down to 1,500 for that population of 10 and under, and took 300 to go to the country club, which is, it's a wild ass guess, but I don't think anybody's got a better idea. I don't know, but it sounds reasonable knowing the people. That's 11.25% of the population every day for 15 years, 100. It's not feasible, guys. I hope you will look at this. I hope you will dig into it. If you think it's a great idea, prove me wrong. And about that Olympic pool, I'll vote for that. But that's another story. That I will. But anyways, here's my last thing. It's our money, not other people's money. It's our money. And we can do a lot with this. And maybe we can do something better with it. You're going to spend it. God knows you're going to spend it. But do something that will benefit more people on the island, in rec. That's it. Thank you. But again, I like the Olympic pool.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. All right, Mr. Clark. You don't have to if you don't want to. Oh, come on.
Just don't understand why you four people have to make a decision and we don't get to make the decision for $600,000. That's ridiculous. Alpaca Farm. When the guy went to put the Alpaca Farm in the place, he brought a 5-gallon bucket, put it in the back of the room, and nobody smelled it. But the deer don't like it. So if you want to go to the alpaca farm and pick up some doo-doo, to take it over to your foliage that's getting eaten alive, you can. He says, come on over and he'll give it to you.
I was unaware, but thank you.
Okay. What a park. Okay, got that one. Okay. When is Grow and Horse Mill going to get done? When is Grow and Horse Mill going to get done? Chip seal. When is it going to get done?
I have no idea what you were talking about.
Other dependents.
Yeah. Then your next couple of weeks here.
Okay, because they've done all the preliminaries. They did the things. Now on Grow Road, you're only going to do from what, East River to Meridian?
It's there's patching south of Meridian.
I understand that, but you did from Meridian to the water on West River.
No. To
Patch.
South Point. To South Point.
Oh, you patched?
Yeah.
Okay,
Where we
so
patch, but the chip seal is going to be to South Point.
South Point's going to go to South Point and stop there. It's not going to go to South Point. It's going to go on Grow, right?
It's going.
And then it's going to go down South Point.
It's going to go down South Point. Yeah. It's not going to go to West. It's not going to go to West
Where's
River.
it go to? Go to the first bridge?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Boating in front of Water's Edge. Is there any way we can get a auxiliary policeman with a camera?
Glad you asked,
And
Mr.
take
Clark.
some,
One of the things I'm
picture-
working on in the near future is a revision of the township's no-wake laws with emphasis on keeping that area no-wake and enforced. So stick with
People
me.
don't know, they say, well, I'm slowing down, but he's like this, and he's pushing water all over the place. If they go on the other side, on the west side, of the, and they could go like hell, and nobody's over there.
Except for the Elizabeth Park Marina.
Well, I'm saying south. I know what you're saying. South of the bridge. You could run all day over there. I don't know why they don't go on that side. But I wish somebody would start taking some pictures on these suckers and send them a bill. And then when the word gets out that we're not going to play, because these people that have boats over there sit there, and it's Rock City. All I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any more public comment from the public present?
I'd like to say something.
Mr. Schmidtke.
The pool at Water's Edge never made money. Ann can attest to that. My wife was a secretary bookkeeper at Water's Edge. The township treasurer and her worked together very hard to get that pool put in there. The pool was paid for through the marina and the golfing, as that's what covered the cost of the pool. And it never, ever made any money, did it, Ann? Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidtke. Let me round it out. The board has, in the 6 years I've been doing, or is it 7 years I've been doing budgets, the pool lost money every year. The golf course lost money every year. The marina made money. We put the marina money back into the marina, and we subsidized the pools. We have an opportunity maybe to reverse it. The board's voted on it. We'll continue looking at it. So, with that, any other public comment? Not offered. Mr. Budney.
Oh, I just want to make a motion.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Second. Well, it's unanimous. Whichever one. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks for coming tonight. Hopefully the audio was better than previously.